go ahead and give what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about the key room updates, and then we're going to talk about a particular plant, talking about the cost of it, the care of it, and any type of advice. Today is actually a little bit of an extra in here because I had to wipe down one of my plants this morning. I'm actually going around the room wiping down all the plants. That's something that I have not been doing as much as I would like to. I used to do it a little bit more over the summertime, and I think with the weather and kind of how it feels, I haven't really been as planty and wanting to do all the extra things in the room that I usually do over the summertime. But that's because I'm normally in the room a lot more. This morning I wiped down, which plant was it? The Philodendron Red Congo. The Philodendron Red Congo is this plant right here. We talked about it yesterday, I feel, for a little bit. Yeah, we wiped it down. Okay, so this is the Philodendron Red Congo. All right, so I just talked about what mix I used in order to wipe the plant down. Now, yesterday when we wiped this plant down, I didn't have half of the mix. I just went with water and neem oil. Well, this morning I just wanted to do it the right way and make sure that it was correct. So I went down and wiped it down again. Now, the 3 items that I used is the soap right here. You see this, you can get it from Walmart. I don't know if they have it in Target, but they have them in every grocery store, okay? I don't know about all the other flavors. I got in yesterday and I did see like a lavender and an almond oil and all that. I don't know if that stuff is right or not, but I know that this is right and it's always been, so I'm just gonna recommend this one. This is the Magic Soap. Now, this one I went to kind of an expensive grocery store, not on purpose. It was the only place that I knew would have what I needed available right then and there. But this right here I ended up paying $13 for. I believe if you go to Walmart, it's like $10 now. So this is your peppermint soap. Next is your neem oil. Now you can get cold pressed neem oil, whatever kind of neem oil. I actually had another brand of neem oil before this. Grab right here. I had this neem oil. It was perfectly fine. I just opened it up and smelled it, and I just saw some colors in there that I just didn't like. So I was like, I just figured it was old. But I bought this one off of Amazon, and the only reason why I didn't order another one was because I was in the store, I was thinking about it, I was like, let me just grab this. So either or is perfectly fine. I do not like the smell of this one though. So you get your some neem oil, and recently I've been seeing a lot of people using rubbing alcohol when they're using this mix together. For the longest time, for about 4 years, I've only used these 2 ingredients together. And yesterday was the first time that I actually mixed it in together to play around with the thought of the idea of doing it, and then today I actually did it on my plant. So, guaranteed results. These 2 work with water, but the alcohol is supposed to work even better with pest. And guys, you could just spray regular alcohol on plants. Make sure that they're watered, of course. Don't spray alcohol on a plant that you haven't watered. But you can just spray rubbing alcohol on a plant and it'll treat some of your pests like your mealybugs. So it's still safe to go ahead and put it into this formula. Now what this does, you mix all 3 of these together, get you a bottle like this or whatever bottle. I also have a cheaper version of a bottle, and I think this was like maybe $2. Should be $1, but everything you know is to make money. So you get you a bottle like that, and all you do is your water to liquid ratio. Basically, if you have a bottle around this size, I will fill it up all the way up to pretty much what you see that liquid at, right? And then each one of these, you're gonna put 1 ounce of each. Hey, how you doing? You're gonna put 1 ounce of each inside of that jar. Now, you can always put, now for your alcohol, you just put a little bit of drops. I would say this morning I did 4 drops. Probably could have put more, but this is the first time me doing it, so I didn't want to, come in over graces. Hi, what are you doing? Right now I'm explaining what I used in order to wipe my plants down to make sure they're clean, and it helps a lot with fighting pests. And last time I checked, all of this was still natural, so we're running good. But yeah, put you just about 4 drops. That's what I did with the alcohol. Mix it all together in your spray bottle, and your spray bottle you want to have about 10 ounces of water. And after you do all that, you'll have a mix like this. Now, if you want, I can pour this out and I can show you how I make it. You all let me know. I don't want to go and waste my time and pour it out if you're not interested. But if you're really curious to know, I don't have a problem with doing it. I mean, This costs nothing really when you think about it. But yeah, so that's what I use. I use this mix right here, sprayed on the leaves, sprayed on the stems, and you wipe the plant down. Now, what you want to use when you wipe the plant down, get you some of these. Now, I know I push a lot on the Viva paper towels, and they are really good, but you get you some of these right here, they work amazing. Home Depot, you go to the back where the cleaner section is at, and they tear away microfiber, very soft. And the good thing about this, if you have any type of bugs or anything, you can just tear that right off. This is how you tear it off. Have any bugs that you may not know is on the plant, it doesn't matter because you throw it away anyway. Helps a lot more than dealing with these. These are great and they work well, and as long as you're really good about your cleaning on throwing them into the washing machine or hand washing them, however it is, to make sure you don't carry pests on. But I'm pretty sure I have carried on a lot of pests in these without knowing, because some of our pests we don't know, we don't see. So you wipe them down and you're gonna wipe them all the way down. I can't tell you how many times I've had outbreaks from plants when I have cleaned all the plants. You know what I mean? So I'm being smart this time. I'm going through wiping it off. This is $10 and it gets you 50. So, I mean, I don't know how many plants you have. For some of us, like me, I would have to go back and probably buy about 5 more, you know, depending on to wipe down. But if you only have a few plants or just up to 10, 15 plants, whatever, this will be more than enough for you. But again, you wipe your top leaf and the bottom part of your leaf with your plant. And that's how it's done. We'll actually do it on this plant. That's what I want to talk about today. So those were our key room updates. What I'm doing is just going around spraying all the plants and leaves down and getting those cleaned up. And of course, watering any plants as I go along the way. No other key updates with that. Now we're on to the stromanthe, the cost of this plant. This plant right here, $23.95 is what I paid for this one. Now, I did buy one about a year before. Ooh, I can't really say, maybe about 2 years ago, 2 or 3 years ago. It was my very first one. I had it for about a year. I did not water it properly, it dried out and died out. And that's why we're actually here with this plant today. This one is actually drying out a whole lot faster than what I wanted to. I think that has a lot to do with, I'm looking in a pot and it's almost buried half down, so we probably have some roots down here that's curled out, and I think putting it in a big pot and giving it a little bit more mix is going to benefit it. And I'm going to be putting it in a self-watering pot. That's really the main thing. The size of the pot in the self-watering pot isn't too much bigger. You know, when we're doing any type of repotting, I always say you don't want to take a huge jump, because your plants is going to spend that time having to rebuild its root system in the soil. So if you put it in a pot's too big, your plant is going to decline as far as growing out the top, and then you're going to have a whole lot of just soil sitting there, which is going to open up and make you prone to what? Root rot. So this plant right here, this is a plant that does like its soil to stay moist. It's been a struggle for me because just about every single plant in here likes its soil to be almost dry. Well, no plant likes it to be dry, but you know, they don't start showing symptoms of being stressed and all that until they take a turn for the worse. Well, this one right here, I gotta keep moist but not too wet. You know, as they say, you want to be moist but not soggy, you know. Tomato sometimes. So, $24 is what I paid for this one. The first one I think I paid about like $42 for. So this was a win finding it. This is not a plant that you could just go into your store year round and find, at least not in none of my nurseries. And that's actually what stood out to me was when I was there. Well, before I went there, they made a post about how they had some that came in. I'm like, oh, shucks. So I got to the car, went there, and it's one of my local nurseries. I only go to 2 nurseries. Now, they have a couple of other ones all around here, but I'm just loyal to my 2, unless I have a reason to go to another one. Hello, where did you get the watering pot? Thanks. Talking about the self-watering one, this one right here, Amazon. You can get a 3-pack, 4-pack, 5-pack, however you want. Now I actually need to find the water. It has a water thermometer that drops inside of here, so that way I can know, you know, when it's time to water or not. It'll still operate perfectly fine without it. I just have to go over, tap the pot, see if it has water in it, or have a look over it. But that almost defeats the purpose. But I'm gonna tell you something. If by the time you walk over to a plant, it's a mind thing. you have to walk over to make sure the self-watering pots actually have water in it. You kind of could have just walked over to make sure your plant had water in it, you know? But something about having my plants in self-watering pots just makes me feel like I can buy a little bit of extra time in case I just don't make it. But yes, get them from Amazon. They range anywhere between the price of $24.95 and I've seen them get up to $59.99. I couldn't tell you the exact price that I paid because I bought this one and a square type form at the same time. You're welcome. Now, if you want to, you can go to, I don't know if I have a link here, but if you follow me on Instagram on He Really Loves His Plants, you don't have to follow me. I'm just giving you the page name. You can go over there and you can click on my link, and I have an Amazon storefront. Yeah, it'll save me some pennies to the dollar. If you want to use it, I will appreciate it. But the main thing is it has a list of everything that I use here in the plant room. So that way, if anybody wants to know anything about it, you can just click there, go there, and compare prices. I don't know what your wallet's like. You know, I try to go as cheap as I possibly can, but some stuff I do like to splurge a little bit on. But that'll be up to you to go in, take a look, see if that's something you like, and do a little shop around. Also, too, while you're doing shop around and we talking, guys, I finally launched my website, okay? It's up and it's going. Now, we know that this is just, this is a little bit of it, and this isn't even on the site yet. I want to do a fresh, clean one and take a picture of it. But guys, the website, grown on Tuesday, okay? Just saying that to you. I'm not gonna suggest for anybody to buy anything because I know sometimes it'll flag my video. So I'm just saying I have a website. It's up. You can go back, rewind, and get the website and just have a look around. I've been purchasing tubers and bulbs from Walmart, Lowe's, and Home Depot. I haven't picked up the 1 gallon pot yet. Tubes. What do you mean by tubes? Been purchasing tubers and bulbs. No, I haven't. Tulips? I don't know. But yeah, I'm sorry. But yeah, if you go there and hey, I didn't even see you come in. Good morning. I'm sorry. I'm trying to read the comment. I'm telling you, this stuff is small, and I don't know why you would think they have a button on here that allows the messages to stay on the screen. I'll be fine with it. It wouldn't distract me. But yeah, let's go ahead and get into it though. So we're going to be doing a repot on the stromanthe. Now, stromanthes, in my opinion, they like to sit in moisture a little bit longer. Mind you, this is just my second one growing. I haven't grown 4 or 5, so I'm going with trial and error. Now, so far I've realized that it does not like to go dry, and that the soil that you buy it in, it does do best in that. That's why I messed up on my first one. I switched it all the way out to a real chunky mix, and it did not like that. So this mix that I'm actually going to be using is none other than tropical potting mix from Miracle Grow. Now, you can also get the Miracle Grow indoor potting mix, and it'll be the same. I do a lot of repotting with monsteras and so forth, and that stuff works really good for me. Now, again, I know there are so many different soils you can use, so many products, and if you want to spend that money, you can. But from someone like me, if I don't have to spend money on something, I try to save that for when it really is an issue. And for right now, as long as you use the soil the right way, you'll be fine. Soil is eventually going to run out of its nutrients anyway. So building it, taking the soil and building it around the plant's needs is more important than the brand that you put in there, okay? So, now I will say one thing though that I really do like is that when you can go to stores and you can get a mix that's already made just for your plant to take the headache out of having to figure out what to do. And this just seemed like a very long step. It was stupid. I should have just put this down. Why y'all sit here and let me do this the hard way? All right, so I think that this should be enough. I'm not gonna make a mess and look at that. Being lazy. I'm gonna move y'all a little bit closer, okay? I think we should be in there. Everybody see? We good? I feel good. All right, so first thing we do is I squeeze around here. when I do any type of repotting, I do not like to water my plants before, okay? It's just soggy dealing with the water, they're heavy, it's depending on the size of the plant. It's just, yeah, no need. So, this is the mix. Very dry, and as you can tell, it's a very dense mix. It doesn't have a lot of chunkiness going on. The only thing I see is some perlite, but for the most part, it looks like it's either peat moss, koi, something along that lines. So, repotting it back in something just like that is the goal. So, what I do is I go around here, gently rub the bottom of the plant. The reason why I do this is to allow these roots to break up, so that way when we place it in, it goes down. Now, placement of where you put your plant in the pot matters. Now, if you place it too low, your roots are going to immediately come out the bottom of the pot, okay? I mean, perfect would be able to have it nice and surface with it halfway to grow. That's the sweet spot, and that's always the goal. Look at that right there. I even have another little small one. See that right there? That's starting to grow. So now we gently rub. Do not pull or you're going to snap your roots, okay? We're just making sure we're knocking off as much as we can, but we don't want to go close to the root ball. Depending on how mature a plant is, and I'm going to put it like this, any plant that's in a pot bigger than a 4-inch, we're going to treat it like it's mature, okay? They just as sensitive to going to shock, just like adult plants when you rearrange their whole atmosphere, okay? So, next is going to be my self-watering pot, which we got to find the water thing for. We're going to put some soil in at the bottom. Now, I would like to get it halfway. When you repot your plant, you want to be able to at least get it halfway. Say this is the plant, I want it to go down about halfway. That'll be perfect. That will give enough space to allow new roots to be able to grow and form without it being all the way at the bottom or all the way up here at the top, okay? Because if you place that plant all the way up here at the top, let's just say this is the plant and you have it sitting up here and it has to fill all of that pot down here, you're going to get root rot, okay? It's no way in the world these roots can fill up that whole bottom pot. That's why you always just want to go up to a 1/2 inch or the next pot size. Don't overthink it, okay? We have a tendency to want to repot. Plants don't need to be repotted as much as you think that they need to be, okay? They're good with being in a pot for 2 or 3 years. Take it from me, somebody who was always repotting his plants, and when I repot my plants, I wonder why are they growing? Like, the plant was taking off and was growing, doing really well, and I'm like, oh, it's time to get it in a bigger pot. Slow the plant all the way down now. Now I stress the plant out. Now it has to fill to the bottom, and then I wonder what happened. Eventually the plant wakes back up and it starts to come around, but you done lost about 7 to 8 months of progress versus letting that plant grow out in that pot till it get to the point that when you water your plant and the leaves start turning yellow the very next day, that's a good signal to let you know, make sure you don't have pests, of course, but usually 24 hours, you water your plant, and in 24 hours, leaves start turning yellow. That's a good indicator that it's time to repot your plant because your plant's roots is sitting in water. Okay, that just means that if the water is sitting all the way down there and it can't go out and you know you didn't hydrate it, it's just no room for it to be able to grow. That means it's not a lot of soil in there. It's just roots sitting at the bottom of the pot. If that makes sense. Because the roots start to get rid of the soil and it starts to get really, really tight. And then the next thing you know, you have a whole thing. You ever thought about that when you plant your plant in, you have all that soil to the outside, and then when you get ready to do a repot, how you barely can see the soil because all you can see is the roots? Like I took this plant out and it had a little bit of soil around it, but where is it at? At some point in time, this plant went in there and it was just a whole bunch of soil. So just think about that. So that's why when you water the next day and it turns yellow, all of a sudden you're going from this soil, and all it takes is 1 week. It just goes from 1 week to 1 week to 1 week. When it gets to the final week, it's like, you know what? He needs to repot me or she needs to repot me. I'm going to act out, and that's what's going to happen. It's very, very easy to do. So that's usually you recognize it. The next day it'll turn yellow. Then go ahead and do your repot. When you do your repot, just take it up to the next size. You don't need to go extreme. Don't repot your plant for the size that it's supposed to grow to be, okay? You put that plant in a big enough pot, it's a sure-way ticket for it to go down. So we're going to put this soil in halfway here. About as halfway as I can. I may have to take some out because, again, this is a self-watering pot and it's shaped a little different. As you can tell, I don't have that full circle that I normally would have because this is a self-watering pot. So I have to make a few adjustments. So let's see what we got going on. And guys, it looks like we got it dropped in there just right. So we got it there. So now what I'm going to do is just take the soil that I did break up from around the plant. I can use that, and I'm going to use some soil that I have. Because the plant isn't sick, so nothing's wrong with the soil. So you can reuse that and save you some money. I'm not going to tell you how many times I threw away the soil when I was doing a repot of a plant, and nothing was wrong with it. I just did it. Wasn't trying to waste, just didn't, I don't know, I just didn't think to reuse dirt or soil. I didn't think about that. And as you can tell, the way that this soil looks, it almost looked like this was almost the same mix. They use the indoor pot mix by Miracle Grow because it did have the little white perlites in it. But yeah, I'm telling you, and that's why I tell people, you can go to these places and order online and get some really nice stuff from, and it is really nice. Or if you just need something to make do till you learn what it is that you want to go, you can trust these Lowe's and Home Depot. This stuff that's selling in the store, that's what they use to grow these plants, you know. So now, me being a small business, I'm always going to say support small businesses, of course, if they make sense. If it doesn't make sense, it doesn't make sense. If you're not a shopper and you don't like to wear clothes, it would make no sense for you to come to my website because you would think, like, who will pay for this, right? But if you're somebody who does like to shop, who knows daggone well they're getting a deal, then they will buy. You know, it just depends. You have to figure that out. You like how I threw that in? Hey, gotta seize the opportunity. Use all your platforms. All right, so here I am going through here, and I'm making sure that this has soil all the way up here at the top. And then what we're gonna do, if you've heard me talk about him before, Tanner the planter, love that guy, love watching him, but he's do this little tap thing right here. It's so funny, but I get it because it's so truthful. You take it and you tap your soil to make sure that the soil drops down to around those roots. Now, if we had a clear pot, you could really see the difference that it does. It really does work. This also helps you make sure that your plant is properly potted the way you want it to be. Take your time, look at your plant. Don't just do it to get it out the way, because what happens, you can end up with a crooked plant. I've had a couple of them where it started to grow a little bent because I just was moving a little too fast, just assumed it was right. So you want to make sure the plant is, the best way I could say is packed but not overstuffed. I don't know how to put that. You don't want so much soil to the point where you're packing it down like that. Let me see here. I'm a new plant parent, so I am still learning. Can you repot anytime during the year? Absolutely. Okay, so let's get into that. Repotting. You can repot any time of the year if the conditions are year-round the same. If you take your plants outside, like a lot of people do, a lot of older people do, that's why you hear a lot of people say don't do any type of repotting. And that's because they usually rely on like the greenhouse lighting to come inside there, like at nurseries, or a lot of people pick up their plants and move them to the back porch or move them to the living room and so forth. So people move their plants around, so that's why they don't do repotting. But if you use grow lights, okay, if you rely on the window, if you don't need to repot, I wouldn't suggest repotting because you rely on kind of on Mother Nature, and that's dealing with like the sun and the timing and so forth for a repot. However, if your plant is sick and dying and needs a repot at any time. But if you use grow lights on your plants, it doesn't matter. You can repot that plant night, day, any time of the year. It does not matter because the conditions of the plant is not changing. The only reason why people say don't repot your plants is because the condition has changed from spring, summer to bringing it in during the fall or winter. So the question is, do you use grow lights? I guess I should ask. And a little secret too, this plant relies a lot on the window. That little grow light that I have down there, I know it might do a little something, but not a lot. And I'm giving my plant a repot because the plant's fried out. I still have to show you the other parts of what's going on with the plant also too. So let's go ahead and get to it. The reason why I knew the plant was starting to dry out was because I kept on running across these issues right here. See the crustiness right here? Got it. Thank you. You're welcome, man. If you have any questions or anything you have, hey, shoot it over to me. If you can go to my Instagram if I don't move fast enough on here, because sometimes I don't see comments and stuff on here. I see my notification and I click it, but I felt like I answered, and then I find out a couple of days later that somebody said something and I'm late, like getting back, and I'm like, well, I would have answered it. But if I don't move fast enough, you can always shoot me a message or something over there. But this is how I knew the leaves were starting to dry out. Now, what I'm going to do is cut these off, the dry leaves. And if they're soft enough, you can also take your finger and pull them off. But I'm just going around cutting this. Okay, so we all know that a leaf that turns yellow is never going to come back, okay, if it turned yellow. If a leaf turned yellow, it's never going to be back green, purple, pink, whatever color it was. So go ahead and get rid of it. You want to get rid of it because the plant doesn't realize that that part of the plant is dying or has died, and it still pushes energy to it, okay? So by you cutting off that yellow part or that dead part of your plant, that is activating something inside of the roots with your plant. And it's like, let's grow. Damage control. And your plants start growing. Haven't you ever heard, especially with trailing plants, you cut one, you get two? It's truth to it. Now, what I do like to do is go around here and cut the parts off that are dry as well. The tips, because they're never going to come back. Sometimes, though, when I cut these tips off, I do see it go up just a little bit, and I think that just has something to do with the fact I cut it a little past the brown part of the leaf. Why do I do this? Aesthetic reasons. Cutting the tips off the plant isn't going to make it grow better or do better. It's just dry tips that I don't have no use for seeing. And that's pretty much it right there. And I'll go ahead and cut this part off too. Make sure I didn't miss no questions. All right, so the next thing I'm going to do is water this plant. Now, when you water your plant, let's see if anybody who's been following me for a while, if you're new here, you get to learn. Anybody been following me, what am I going to grab to put in my water to water my plant after I do a repot? I'm going to go grab it. Let's see if anybody answered it. All right. Well, maybe we're pulling in and out. Well, Super Thrive. Okay. I use it for every single repot. I've read some studies that said it's just a joke. Everybody I know who uses this stuff says it's not a joke, because we know. We're going to put us a little bit in there, and then we're going to use water. Now, the stromanthe and my calathea down there, I do not give it regular water. I give it filtered water. Only plants that I do that with. Now, I heard that there's some stuff that I can buy off of Amazon, but I really don't know what the name of it was, and I tried to go back to find it, and I don't think it was typed in, so I just couldn't find who recommended something. But they said you could put just a few drops of it in the water, and it takes care of it. Now, I went to my local nurseries, and they said for plants like this, what they use, they just use a little bit of fertilizer, very, very light. So let's just say if it's calling for 4 scoops, they would just use barely 1 scoop, barely a half of 1 scoop. Put that into water, very, very light, and just water the plant that way. And they'll be able to take it straight from the tap, depending on what kind of water that you have, of course. But for me, I'm just going to use the bottle of water for right now. I did use that method, and nothing happened to the plant, so maybe we can do it. But for now, I have some water that's already sitting here that I already bought, so why not use it? So now what we're going to do is we're going to pour water in here. We got Super Thrive, and make sure your water is room temperature water. If you put cold water when doing a repotting of a plant, you'll shock your plant. I've done that a couple of times. I didn't even know what I was doing, actually. It was my mother-in-law who told me when I was telling her. I was like, every time I repot a plant, I just don't get good results. And she was like, well, well, what do you do? What do you think you're doing? I was like, I don't know. And then we just was talking about the water. And then I was like, I just turned the water on, water it from the top. And she was like, was the water cold? And I was like, I don't know. I just turned it on. She's like, oh, you got to make sure. She's like, yeah, you'll shock your plants if you give them cold water. And I was like, thank you. You like that. And it's crazy because I'm thinking talking to her is another problem going on. And that was the problem, So that's why I said, man, I love my plant community because we really can have a conversation and just learn so much. And it's about stuff I want to talk about. You know what I mean? Okay. So I saw the water drain up and it's draining down slowly. And the way that it's looking, I'm like, oh, I hope I didn't put too much indoor pot mix. But I just watered it. This is, when I first bought the plant, this is how it looked. It looked like it was very wet, and then I just let it dry out, and I see what it's going to do. Now, normally what I do when I first do any type of repot inside of a self-watering container, I do not put water at the bottom of the container. And I also go back to see what water drains out here. Reason being is I heavily watered this plant, and what I want to do, I want to see this plant basically dries out. And if it makes it all the way from it being wet to a dry, and I don't see anything like yellow signs, I don't see the leaves starting to curl up, just nothing that looks weird, that lets me know that the repot was successful. Now, whether the plants take off and start growing real fast, I won't know, but as long as I get no change, I'm okay with waiting for some change to happen. So I'm not going to water this plant. I'm going to let this water the pot. I'm going to continue to monitor and dump out any water that we have, excess water. And probably, this plant would normally dry out every 4 to 5 days, but considering it's in a little bit of a bigger pot and the soil is a little bit more dense than the perlite, this has a little bit of lava chunks in it, basically like little clay chunks. So I would probably say 10 days it should be about dry. So we'll check back with it. We can talk about the care though. I think we kind of did cover the care of the plant. You want to give this plant a lot of light. It does not want direct sunlight. Although if the sun hit the leaves just for a few minutes, you'll be perfectly fine with it. That's what happens here in the room. The sun hit the leaves and it goes up and it's fine. Do not let this plant dry out, okay? When it starts drying out, the leaves are not forgiven, okay? These aren't like our philodendrons or our pothos where when the leaves start drying out, they start curling, but then when you give it some water, they'll eventually start forming again and they'll be fine, almost look like nothing's happened. Not these, okay? When it dries out, it's done. So you will have half a plant if you keep allowing your plant just to keep drying out, which I noticed with my plant is like, okay, I'm losing a couple more leaves than what I should be using. So that's why I'm hoping that this self-watering container is going to help me out some. And that's one of my things I've always had in the room that I'm learning to grow is that become comfortable with getting uncomfortable and starting to learn how to care for better plants or different type of plants if you want to be able to advance and learn a little bit more. Just because I know how to grow certain type of plants, I have a habit of only buying those type of plants. And that stops me from being able to care for some of the plants that do bring me a lot of joy. One like this. My next plant that I want to learn how to care for is going to be a begonia. I have probably went through about 10 begonias. I'm probably being a little modest. It might be up there to 20. But the last one that I bought that died, that was the one that did it for me because I really, really, really wanted that plant. That was the Begonia exotica. They have the technical term is the Brumoso exotica, the begonia. It's absolutely beautiful. And I think the begonia angel wings are very beautiful as well. And the polka dots. Begonias just in general are very unique. Their shape, their leaves is like no other. I can't seem to grow one, and I think it's because I allow mine to dry out too much, and the soil that I put them in is like a philodendron mix, and that's just not it. But again, hard to change, hard to adapt. I just figured I could change the plant. It don't work like that. What it grows in is what it grows in, and you can put it in what you want to put it in, but it won't grow in it. You know what I mean? So, but anyway, so my advice to you though with this plant is if it's the first time of you owning this plant or getting this plant, keep an eye on it and don't be too hard on yourself if it dies. But I am going to tell you this. If the plant dies, go back immediately and buy another one. And the reason why is because you have already learned what things not to do. So you're going to know those things not to do while you're learning what to do. You may lose a second plant. But again, you're going to learn what things you did right, what things you didn't do right, what things you can get right when you get ready to do the next one. I learned that I let my plant dry out too much. I learned that it wasn't the soil that it was in was not beneficial for the plant. I also learned that it wasn't getting enough light. So the things that I've done on this one is making sure now with the self-watering container, it's like, okay, I thought I could keep up with the watering system on keeping it, keeping the soil moist, and I did for the most part, but the some days that I missed were the days that I missed, you know? So I know it needs water in the soil. Next thing is I know that it needs light, so I got it closer to the window. This first one that I had used to sit up there like at the top of that rack, and it get a little bit of sunlight, but that was fine. This one is closer to the window, and it allows the sun to be able to come in. So we have more light, definitely keeping the soil moist, not changing the soil. So the soil is something that can actually retain moisture and not just push it all the way through. These roots like to sit in moisture a little longer. And what was the third thing? Grow lights, light, soil, self-watering pot, and cleaning. So glad that we're here. So when we get ready to wipe the leaves down, the microfiber cloths, I was using gloves. And those gloves, I would clean all the plants. I would have those days where I want to clean a couple of plants, 4 or 5 plants. I only have 2 pair of gloves. So do you think that I'm cleaning those gloves in between? No, I keep those gloves on and I wipe them all the way down. That was another thing I gave my plant mealybugs. And so on the urge of treating for mealybugs, which at that time I was terrible with treating pests, I didn't know what to do. I thought the mealybugs would just die out and go on about their life. I really did. That's how bad I was with it. So I also battled with mealybugs. Now I have a pest prevention. If I see any type of pest on my plants, I immediately get in there and I attack. So that's what I learned from the first plant down to the second plant. You know what I mean? So you got people who are experts at growing some plants because they have grew that plant either for a very, very long time and they've learned what works, or they've gone through a couple of them till they know how to grow them now, you know? So, but in teaching that, they may overlook some steps. You know, right now you're catching me on my second plant. Now, hopefully the second plant is the last one I have to buy. But if this one dies, I'm going back and get me a third one. And I'm not waiting like a year or 2 years to get it either. I'm going to go ahead and get me a third one because, like, okay, I didn't get that right. What can I do to get this right? And that's where you learn from it. And once you have it down, you can teach other people how to care for that plant, or you could just give yours the best care ever. And then you move on to learning something else. That's really how I could sum that up. But my advice to you is that it's not a beginner-friendly plant. Only being because most of the time when you're a beginner, what I classify as a beginner is you're just starting. Like today, you're getting ready to go and buy a plant, or you just been in plants for about a month. We're just too new to the hobby first starting off, in my opinion, unless you, again, have been growing plants. But again, if you haven't been growing plants, then you don't understand like the watering needs of the plant, the lighting needs of the plant, and that's just something that you learn as it goes with time. Like for the long time, and I still sometimes can struggle with trying to explain it, bright indirect light. That is the craziest daggone thing that I've ever heard. But do you know what it is? My interpretation of it and having success here in the plant room is this. Bright indirect light means as much light as you can give that plant without no direct sunlight, okay? So there's no such thing as too much light for your plant. You know, when they say a plant is low bright tolerance plant, guys, it just means it can grow with less light. But every single plant needs light. And the more light you can give it, I don't care what plant it is. It could be a peace lily. Set that peace lily by the window. I guaranteed you. Now, don't let the sun hit the leaves, because and don't set that peace lily by the door that has a giraffe, because And don't put it by a window sometimes, because if that have giraffes, because it's just a peace lily is not that peaceful. And we talked about that a couple of times. But you can set a peace lily by the window and it's going to do good. You know what I mean? You bright, indirect light. That's all it means. When it comes to your grow lights, there are lunics and measurements and tools you can use to be able to measure your light. I've shared with it a couple of times. I'll share this one with you. Right here, light meter. Okay, you can get this off of Amazon. These will measure the lights. Now you go to Google or use your chat. You type in what kind of plant that you have, and it'll recommend to you how many cubes or whatever it is of light that you need for your plant. And then you're able to give that plant. You just take your grow light, wherever your grow light is at and where your plant is going to be at. So if your grow light's sitting here and you're doing your measurement here, your plant need to be here. Just because you do a measurement here and your plant's over there, it's not going to work because it's giving you the light of what's going on. So if your plant needs something like 2,000 and 2,000 is right here, that means that your grow light needs to be on that plant like that. Okay, and that's why it does matter what kind of branding of lights you get in your grow lights for those specific reasons, if that's what you're trying to do. For me, I haven't done a accurate measurement on my lights because I know that I'm gonna need more grow lights. I know that I'm not giving my plants enough light, but I'm giving them enough light, but not enough. That doesn't make sense. I'm giving them enough light, but not to the point where they could be doing a lot better. But I've also talked about how I'm not financially prepared to spend the amount of money right now that those plants are going to need. And for right now, because of the type of plants that I do grow, philodendrons, monsteras, Hoyas, I do have a stromanthe and a calathea, but for right now, they don't seem to be giving me too much of a hassle. That those plants aren't putting me in a rush in the bind where I have to upgrade my lighting system right now or they're not going to do well. So that's why the type of plants that you buy is very, very important as well. Every plant is catered to what your needs are. I'm the type of person who I'm chill, I'm laid back. Sometimes I might not want to deal with you. You know what I mean? It ain't no beef. It just means I'm a Scorpio. You know, I'm just like that. If I don't feel like rocking with you, I don't feel like rocking with you. And it's a reason, but it's not a reason in which I need to explain to you because maybe you didn't do it. It's just me. You know what I mean? So some days I walk into this plant room, I turn around and be like, nope, not today. I come in, I see a plant lean to the side. I see one plant with the yellow leaf sticking out. I see another plant that's like it's just begging to get water. I'm like, not today, not today, you know? But, you know, that's just life and that's what happened. And then I come in and get it back right. But anyway, guys, that is all that I pretty much have to talk about today. Hopefully you was able to get something from this. I do appreciate you being here. If there's anything that you want me to talk about, just put them down there at the bottom of the comment. And yeah, we'll talk about it. Let me make sure that nobody said anything. I'm sorry.